New York City is a wild animal. It is truly its own ecosystem within the United States. And there are things to love, there are things to hate, and there's things that you can just tolerate. What I want to do is, as someone who has now lived here for about 3 years, I would say that I've probably formed some pretty solid opinions about the things that I like about New York and that I don't like. So today I want to go over 5 things that I love about living in New York City. It's just a quick little synopsis. If you are not aware, when I first moved here, I moved to the Upper West Side, and now I live in a different area of the city. So I do have some perspective on living in different areas, which I think is very beneficial. So in no particular order, number 1 is that it is a very walkable city. You really don't need a car, but that's primarily if you live in, I would say, either Manhattan, downtown Brooklyn, like on the edge, and maybe some parts of Queens. That was something that I really loved when I was living abroad back in like 2011. I was able to just jump on a subway and get to where I needed to go. And that's something that you can't really do in the United States. For those of you who don't live in the US is very car dependent. You've probably noticed it in Hollywood movies. And if you are in the US, you probably have a car. And you just really need those to get from point A to point B. And you can have one here, even if you are wealthy enough to be able to maintain one and have a place to park it. It's honestly just not really worth it. The traffic here is horrendous. The public transportation isn't necessarily fastest, but it does tend to be dramatically faster than a car in most circumstances. And I just feel it also gives me a lot of freedom within the city. It's like an added expense that I don't have to have. I don't have to worry about car insurance. I don't have to worry about parking a vehicle or getting, broken into or anything along those lines. Like the street sweeping signs and different rules and regulations around street parking are really annoying and complex. It's very easy for you to get tickets. Having it just be that I don't really need one due to having pretty extensive public transportation, not needing a car is so nice. It is so nice. Number 2, having access to 3 international airports. So if you don't know, the international airports in the New York City general area are JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. So JFK and LaGuardia are both actually within New York City. However, they are in Brooklyn and Queens, so they're about actually an hour or so outside of like the main city, and you have to hop on transportation to get to them. Then you have Newark, which is technically in New Jersey, but is still considered a New York airport generally. I feel the biggest things though with these airports is the cost and time to get to them. I know a lot of people like to hate on LaGuardia, but LaGuardia has actually become one of my favorite airports to fly out of. It was recently renovated. I'll have to double check how much they spent because I know they spent a ton of money, but it looks really nice. And the big thing for me is LaGuardia is actually the cheapest airport to get to. The best way I would say is to take the train, and then once you arrive at the station, which is currently escaping me, then the shuttle. Once you get to the train station, the shuttle picks you up for free. There is no cost to take the shuttle from the station to LaGuardia, and it will take you to your terminal, and it is so nice. However, on the flip side, I would say JFK is probably my second most favorable because it is also very easy to access via public transportation. So all you need to do is take the train, which is $2.75. It's about to go up to $2.90, but as of now, it is still $2.75. But then you have the air train, and last I checked, the air train was $8, and it's honestly like that's way overpriced, and I'm really kind of ticked at Port Authority for making it so expensive. It's really just a way to bring in more revenue for them. So shame on you. So that probably costs you more around $10 or $11. So I would say JFK would be my number 2 airport of choice. Then I would go with Newark being number 3. And no, this isn't really just like a New York City diss to New Jersey. It's because it is the most expensive airport to get to, and it's also just more difficult to get to. So you can either take a bus from Port Authority, which I've done, don't really recommend, $10, $15, give or take. Then there is a taxi, which can cost you anywhere from $50 to $100, and it can take you almost an hour to get there, which is just horrible. The only reason I would do that is if I'm flying out really early, like I took a 3 a.m. or like 4 a.m. taxi to catch a 6 a.m. flight a couple of months ago. That's one where I would just pay the taxi. But then you could also take a train, so the New Jersey Transit is an option. I believe you could also do Amtrak, but then that's gonna probably cost you $15, $16 one way, and then they have an air train as well, but that one is free. so it just costs a little bit more, harder and a little bit longer sometimes to get to. And as someone who gets car sickness and whatnot, I don't know, I find it more of a little bit of a pain to get to Newark, even though it's technically my closest airport. I like to go LaGuardia, JFK, Newark, but it's just really nice having 3 major international airports to choose from, because the prices can be different at each airport too. Like maybe a flight somewhere is $100 cheaper at one versus the other, so having that price comparison option, beautiful. Number 3, the abundance of international food. New York City is so blessed to have so much food to choose from. I can walk out my door and there's poke, Mexican, Ethiopian, Japanese barbecue, American Chinese, there's actual Chinese, the deli or the bodega, Peruvian food is not too far away. There's so much. And then if you venture out of Manhattan and you go to like the Bronx, is really known for Italian food, Flushing, Chinese, Korean food, and it's so good. And then when you get out of the city, it can get cheaper as well when you go to the other boroughs. Oh my goodness. I am so spoiled, and it is one of the things that when I eventually leave New York, it's gonna be hard to give up. Oh my gosh, is it gonna be hard to give up. Now, not everything is fabulous, but having such an array of things from just everywhere, we are very, very spoiled. And I remember back when I still lived in the Midwest, like, oh, California and New York City have everything. It's not fair. And it's true. It's true, we do. We even have California style places. So we're solid. I found a Detroit style pizza place and I'm just like, wow, we have everything. It's crazy. That is something that I'm very, very grateful for, and I can really try something every week. I guess the only downside would be is takeout and sit down restaurants. Just eating out in New York City in general can be very expensive, so you kind of want to just go and find things and plan for trying things, because otherwise I would say if you live in New York, unless you make a ton of money, I would cook most of your food at home. That's what I do. Learn to make things that you like and then plan to go out and try things. Number 4, it's going to be bodega cats. I am a huge cat person. I grew up with them. I had lots of them. I love them so much. I have a little muskrat myself right now who I share with my significant other, who drives me up the freaking wall. I meant the cat, but honestly both of them probably apply to that phrasing. Having the bodega cats I like a lot, which is really funny because you would think having an animal in a place that sells food would just cause like lots of like health code violations, and New York loves to cite businesses for literally everything under the sun. But you can go into a bodega, get yourself your bacon, egg, and cheese, and there's a cat just chilling there on top of the chips, or just walking around. If you know they like people, some of them don't always like people and they're harder to find, but it is something that I truly, truly enjoy. They don't always let you pet them, but at least you can gaze upon their excellence from afar. Something also that you need to understand is that if there is a bodega cat, they are the owner of the establishment. It doesn't matter whose name is on the legal paperwork. That cat is the owner, manager, CEO, everything. Pay them with respect. And number 5 is going to be the perks of the New York City library card. This is one of those ones that I feel kind of goes a little off track, because I did want to do 5 things that are maybe a little bit less mainstream, even though not all of them are. But the New York City Public Library card is actually very powerful. One of the things that I really love about it, which this is pretty common with most library cards these days, is that you can do digital borrowing. I really like the app Libby. So one of the other really nice big perks that it has is this thing called Culture Pass. And with that, you were able to reserve free passes to go to different museums and cultural centers and things like that around the New York City area. They've got ones all over you, literally every single borough. I just think that's a really cool perk. So if you have a New York State ID, you can actually get into museums as a pay as you please. Most of the time I just spot them $5, but having that Culture Pass I think is also like a really nice added perk. But I will give you a caveat: you can't just sign up for the free digital library card online. You will have to go to a branch and get yourself a physical library card in order to use the Culture Pass program. There is just that. If you live in New York and you're excited but you don't have a physical library card, you do need to go get a physical copy of your library card, which will give you a new number. It will invalidate your old one, so then you can reserve passes to use to go. I think you can only get 1 pass per place per year. I think that's cool. The other perk about it that I really like is that if you are an avid language learner, sort of like myself, another thing that you can get for free is if you've ever heard of Mango. It's similar to a lot of other language learning programs, or just like it's online. They have their own unique way of teaching. I've used it for Japanese, and I'm recently starting to use it to try to learn Korean, as my significant other is Korean. We've been together for almost 3 years, and it's just about time that I start picking it up. So I've been starting to use it for that. And what I really like about it is that it gives you different culture references and explains why certain words are used in different ways. It's just really cool. I did not expect a library card to come with so many perks and benefits. So on top of that, New York City just has a lot of ways that if you're a resident, you can go and see a lot of things for free. So if you're not a resident, you can still pay to get into things and things like that. I would just say if you're a resident here and these are things you're unaware of, like go use those free resources because they're awesome. So those are my 5 things that I love about living in New York City after being here for 3 years. But let me know what you guys think. If you live in New York, if you've been here before, what are things that you really love that I might not have covered? As I kind of wanted to stay away from the super main things, but there were certain aspects that I just couldn't ignore, I think, such as things being very walkable and obviously like food. Like these are just aspects of the city that I can't ignore. But were the other ones things you weren't expecting? Let me know. I don't do a lot of lists, but sometimes it is fun just to sit down and like critique things. Thank you so much. I hope you liked this. Please leave a comment below. As I said, if you have other things that I may not have mentioned, or if you disagree with any of the points that I made, I would love to have that discussion. Please be civil, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Slow down.